Hello everyone and welcome to Big Story, where we discuss the hottest topics of the day right in the heart of the newsroom. I'm Haryanto, coming to you live from the Straits Times. Now we are streaming on Facebook and on YouTube, so be sure to comment, share and like our video. While you are at it, hit the bell button so that you will be alerted whenever we go live. Now I'll have my newsroom colleagues joining me to talk about the stories that got you talking today. On to our first segment. China has kicked off its largest display of military force with a parade today as the nation celebrates 70 years of communist rule. Now the Chinese leaders, President Xi Jinping and former President Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao, stood watching the massive military parade. Now we have our colleagues from ST's China Bureau, Dawn and Denson, on location at the parade to witness first-hand the celebration. The spectacle gives notice of the ambition to the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, to realize the Chinese dream of national rejuvenation to become a great modern socialist country. Now we have Sui Noi right here, our East Asia editor, with insight into China's massive parade. Now Sui Noi, first of all, China is showing off how its military capabilities have improved under President Xi.
Yes, today's military parade was a show of China's strength and power. China began modernizing its military, including its hardware, from the 1990s after it had accumulated some economic wealth. And today, at today's parade, we see some of these weapons on display. So first off, we saw the Dongfeng 41 intercontinental ballistic missile. This is China's next generation ICBM, and it is capable of striking the US territory at any point. Yeah, and then we also saw the Dongfeng 17 hypersonic ballistic missile, and this can travel more than 5 times the speed of sound.
Wow!
And yes, and it carries it is, and it also carries a maneuverable glide vehicle that can shift targets in flight. And analysts are saying that this makes it more able to penetrate missile defense systems. Yeah. And then we also saw supersonic drones and the J-20 stealth fighter jet, which is China's latest aircraft.
Now, Sui Noi, the parade is the largest in China's recent history, featuring around 15,000 military personnel, 160 aircraft, 580 pieces of military hardware and equipment, and 59 formations in total. Yet beneath this show of strength, there are still some stumbling blocks, and you've highlighted this in a piece that came out today. If you could tell us, which do you think could be the biggest hurdle for China?
Yes, China does face several challenges as it hopes to realize its national rejuvenation in 30 years' time to become a strong modern state. So internally, we see that it has to deal with a rapidly aging population, economic slowdown, and increasing income gap. And externally, it faces a more unfriendly environment with the US seeking to constrain its rise and its neighbors being wary of its increasing clout, although they welcome China's trade and investment. So, the key stumbling block then, this could be President Xi's centralization of power. So Xi has consolidated power since coming into office in 2012. And he did this basically because he wanted to use that power to do some things. And this include cleaning up the corruption in the CCP, eradicating extreme poverty, and also undertaking economic reforms to take China to its next stage of development. But the problem is that this concentration of power and this tightened control over society, it does make people less willing and less motivated to do things. This is because, you never know when you're going to get hit. It's like whatever you do may offend someone and then you get into trouble. There's really less leeway in such a situation to innovate and also to basically stick your neck out for something.
Right. So now let's now focus our shift to, of course, Hong Kong, right? Now, while China revels in celebration, Hong Kong is on lockdown. Tell us a bit more briefly about the situation right there, and how things are panning out for the city vis-a-vis the celebration that is happening in China right now.
Right. So we have seen that over the past summer, Hong Kong has been mired in protests against an anti-extradition bill that to Hong Kongers is another erosion by Beijing of its freedoms, which are guaranteed under the one country, two systems formula under which it is ruled. So these protests have become increasingly violent, and last month Beijing and the Hong Kong government actually withdrew the bill because basically they wanted to calm things down ahead of the National Day celebration today. But it was a bit too little too late. It was not enough for protesters. They've increased their demand to include, calling for greater democracy for the city. So the violence has continued and it's actually gotten worse. And today we've seen this afternoon that people are out on the streets again, and again there are clashes between the police and protesters. Basically, protesters have paid little heed to what President Xi said this morning in his speech at the parade. He said that Beijing would adhere fully and faithfully to the one country, two systems formula of having Hong Kongers rule themselves, govern themselves, and the high degree of autonomy. He also said that there would be strict compliance to the city's basic law or mini constitution, which Hong Kong.
So now let's focus on Singapore now. So we've gone to Hong Kong, and then that's what's happening here in Hong Kong. And then now in Singapore, we've talked about Singapore not. I mean, of course, all the countries, we are interconnected in one way through trade. So how does China's lack of development or even progress can affect or influence Singapore?
Right. China is Singapore's largest trading partner, and Singapore is one of China's major foreign direct investors. So any slowdown in China's economy, any stagnation, is going to affect our economic well-being. So we've seen that the trade war between China and the US and China's slowdown has actually begun to affect us.
Right. Once again, thank you so much, Sui Noi, for coming into the show to tell us more about the celebration that's happening here in China. Really, 70 years of communist rule. And again, if you want to read up on Sui Noi's article that came out today regarding the stumbling blocks that China is facing ahead of realizing their dream of nation rejuvenation, you can go onto our website, that is straitstimes.com. And on this note also, we would like to give a shout out again to our China Bureau colleagues, Dawn as well as Danson, who have given us first-hand experience as to what is happening right at China, and of course to our colleagues at Hong Kong who are still covering the protest that's happening right there. Once again, thank you so much, Sui Noi, for coming on to the show.